The trade war between the US and China is on hold, at least for now. That's after a high-stakes meeting between the leaders of the world's biggest economies on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Argentina.
I think at some point we are going to end up doing something which is great for China and great for the United States.
The result of their talks is an agreement to keep talking. And yet, that's a breakthrough, as it pulls Washington and Beijing back from escalating a trade war that's threatening global economic growth.
It has been quite a while since our previous meeting, and over the past recent period, a lot of things have taken place in the world. China and the United States, two important countries with major influence in the world, shoulder responsibilities for international peace and prosperity. Only with cooperation between us can we serve the interest of world peace and prosperity.
The ceasefire will last for 90 days, and during that time, both sides have agreed to hold off on imposing additional tariffs. US President Donald Trump promised not to boost taxes on $200 billion of Chinese goods to 25% in January. And in return, Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed to buy more American exports. Trump later said Beijing also promised to drop its 40% import tariffs on US cars.
I always wanted to buy a car, and I was waiting because the tariff was high. Now, if the tariff is really eliminated and the price dropped a lot, I will consider buying one soon.
But the list of things the two leaders will have to agree on before their deadline passes is much longer. Yet, the truce seems to be as valuable as it is vague. While there's been no agreement on resolving what Trump says is his main grievance, Beijing allegedly stealing technology, the prospects for their differences being resolved are now better than they've ever been. Caitlin McGee, TRT World.
Let's talk to Jeffrey Tucker in Atlanta, Georgia. He's the editorial director at the American Institute for Economic Research. Jeffrey, markets around the world love this pause in hostilities.
Yes.
Just put it into context for us.
Well, the markets have hated the trade wars up to now. They began in early 2018, and financials have suffered ever since. And let's be clear that nothing the Trump administration predicted about its glorious trade war has come true. We've experienced falling exports, rising prices in the U.S., factory closings in the U.S. Iconic American companies have suffered, and massive retaliation, which back in March the Trump administration predicted was never going to happen. So what's going on right now is the first signs that the Trump administration is trying to deal with reality, namely that its mercantilist, old-fashioned anti-globalist policies have not worked. And I tell you what shocked everybody in the Trump administration and the president in particular was the shutdown of the General Motors factory in Ohio. Now, here was a policy designed to bring back American workers, right? Make American cars great again and so on. The very opposite happened. So at this point, and given the financial dark clouds on the horizon, the Trump administration decided to pull back, get a little bit of a symbolic victory here from China in the form of this car stuff, and call it a day. So it's good news. Yes, the financial markets are celebrating because we can finally get back on track to building world prosperity again.
Jeffrey, very briefly, let's be clear about this. This is not peace in our time. This is a pause in the trade war.
Yeah, it's 90 days, and God willing, it's going to continue. But my worry is that the president of the United States is a very difficult nut to crack. He's probably still dedicated to this mercantilist policy that he's been pursuing for the last year. My concern is that after the Christmas buying season is over and come January, February, that it's all going to start over again. I hope not, but I think it's maybe too soon to call this a permanent peace,
okay.
Much to my sadness.
Okay, we'll take us down the road a bit. What are the likely outcomes after this 90-day truce? Where are we going to be on day 91?
Well, this is where Trump is going to start leaning in on the intellectual property issue, which is a highly complicated problem. And it's not a problem that China can easily resolve because most of this has to do with American companies and their contractual relationships that they have in China itself. So governments don't have a lot to do with that. And so this is going to be a problem to solve. Now, in terms of China's importation of American cars, this is an irrelevant factor. I mean, a tiny, tiny percentage of American auto manufacturers' cars are actually imported from the U.S. Most of them are built in China itself, so the tariff actually has no relevance there. So we're not going to see an increase in car exports from the U.S. to China, at least not of any significant sort. So this is a purely symbolic victory. Let's Trump declare that he's this great winner of the trade war, come home, tell everybody anti-wonderful, and then we just get through the Christmas season and pick it up later.
Jeffrey, good to talk to you. Jeffrey Tucker in Atlanta in Georgia.